the Shroud of Turin Research Project, acronym STURP, S-T-U-R-P, Shroud of Turin Research Project in 1978, their objective, they were invited to go to Turin, Italy, where the Shroud of Turin is located and has been there since 1578.
Yeah.
So they sent probably 26 individuals there to do hands-on, non-destructive testing of the Shroud of Turin, primarily to answer the question, how was the image formed? And they concluded that they could not determine that, but they could determine how it was not formed, which is significant.
Yeah.
And so they determined it was not due to pigment, dye, or stain. And so it wasn't paint, dye, or stain because there was no pigment. There was no brush strokes. There was no medium. There was no cracking along the fold lines. There was nothing clumping the fibers and threads together. None of the evidences for paint, dye, or stain. So they had to rule that out. So that means how could a forger or an artist create this when it's not due to paint, dye, or stain? They also proved that it's not a scorch from a hot object, although the coloration is all the image is due to discolored fibers, and all of the discoloration on the fibers in the image are the same color, essentially, and it's straw yellow or a light sepia color. And so it's not a scorch due to contact with a hot object, and it's not due to any liquid because there's no capillarity. Capillarity is soaking up of a liquid, so that you can see that there's no capillarity soaking up of any discoloration into the fiber or into the threads. And so it's not due to any liquid, and it's not due to photography. So how was it done? And that's been the mystery, that they could not determine that in 1978. But I think we know what caused it now. It's due to radiation.
Those who think it's a 13th, 14th century forgery, the question is, did they have the technology to be able to produce this kind of an image on this kind of a material in the 13th, 14th centuries? And the answer is clearly no.
The answer is clearly
do we have
no.
the technology now to do it?
No, absolutely not. The closest example of creating an image using modern technology was done on a paper that I read using femtosecond. Now, femtosecond is 10 to the minus 15th second. That'd be 0. Then 14 zeros and then a 1. That's 10 to the minus 15th second burst of radiation from a laser. Not an ultraviolet laser, not a visible light laser. What's the other option? I forget the other option, but it would be another
infrared.
That would be what?
Like an infrared kind of a thing?
There you go, infrared laser. And so that what they did was they used a femtosecond infrared laser controlled by information. And so that's exactly what my concept is. It had to be caused by radiation controlled by information. But that process, a femtosecond laser controlled by information, produced the best image of the shroud. But if you look at that was a best macroscopic view of the face. But even on that, if you investigated it microscopically, there would probably be contradictions.
Wow. Well, wow. All right.
The other thing is that the Shroud of Turin, although it's a two-dimensional image, it contains three-dimensional information. Now, no photograph and no normal photograph and no painting contains three-dimensional information, but the Shroud of Turin does, and satellite telemetry does. So the Shroud of Turin is in the class with satellite telemetry data.
So, well, that's pretty remarkable. But so I want to unpack something though, because I have a follow-up question for that. Okay, because if I look at a photo, for example, right now, a flat photo, a two-dimensional photo of a three-dimensional object, what do you mean by three-dimensional information? Because the illusion my mind gives me is that I'm looking at something flat and two-dimensional in terms of a photo, but I get depth of field, I get shadows, I get contouring in my interpretation, my mind's interpretation of the thing I'm looking at.
Yes.
So the question then becomes, when you say there's no three-dimensional information in photography, I just gave you some. Clearly, you don't mean that. What do you mean when you say that?
Okay, I do mean three-dimensional information, and I'll explain exactly what I mean.
Yeah.
The example that you gave was a two-dimensional information of a three-dimensional object with lighting on it from the exterior.
Yep.
Okay, now that's not what I'm talking about.
Okay.
The three-dimensional information is actually the information that reproduces the vertical distance between the body and the cloth. That's the three-dimensional information that's on the shroud, so that you can take the image on the shroud and back out a statue of it. You
Oh,
can't do that with a photograph of a person's face with lighting from the outside.
oh, so if I were to make a rough analogy between something like this, if I could, what you're saying is that the image on the shroud, though it is two-dimensional, it is flat. It
Yes,
contains the information about, for forgive the crudity, but that which is closer to
the,
the
to the
images that are
cloth.
closer to the cloth
Yes,
are have show that image of whatever it was that created the image was closer, and the stuff that was further looks
yes,
further. So it
yes,
would be similar, like a almost like an ultrasound, but a 3D ultrasound, where we send sound waves into like a mother's womb, and we get an image that bounces back, and we get that contouring because that which is closer appears closer because the sound waves bounced back
yeah, yes,
due to distance. And so what you're saying is the actual image conveys the distance from which the energy source that created it created it. In other words, that which is
yes.
further looks faded, and that which is closer looks darker, right?
Yes,
Okay.
and the you have to realize that the front, just geometrically, the front image is a vertical projection from the body, and the back image is a vertical projection downward from the body. The front image is a vertical projection upward from the body,
Okay.
so that something, whatever made the image, was communicating information regarding the distance, the vertical distance, exact vertical distance from the body to the cloth, so that whatever made the image had to be moving vertically upward from the body to the cloth to form the front image, and vertically downward from the body to the cloth to make the back image. This is just amazing. And
Mm.
so that if you just had a person's face with lighting from the outside, those photons of light, a photon is the smallest package of energy, light energy.
Mhm.
Those photons would be bouncing off the person's face in all directions, but then they either go through the lens of a camera or the lens of your eye to be focused onto whatever you're recording that energy, either a photographic film or digital components or the rods and cones at the back of your eye.
Yeah.
But there would not have been a billion lenses between the body and the cloth. So
Right.
in order to focus this radiation, if the radiation was coming off in all directions, it had to come off vertically in order to retain a good resolution image on the front and back images.
So it
And
sounds
so that can only be done by radiation.